So they asked me to do some sort of introduction. They asked me last minute. I'm not really an improv guy. I mostly just spend a couple weeks writing something out and then considering killing myself and then go back to it and try to write it again. That's generally my process. I don't really improv very much for this reason. Normally it just ends up me hating myself more, but at the same time it gives me some more things to write about, I guess. Artists are really kind of people who go through bad things, or I'm just sometimes I think I'm just, when I'm nervous, I just keep talking about things and I don't I'm just going to stop this recording now. I hope you like this show. But buy my game, please. Oh Jesus.
Well, hello, and welcome to Backseat Designers, Season 4, Episode 15. I got it right the first and third time we tried this. And today is going to be a very, very special episode because Gareth has survived a terrorist attack and Frederick has admitted that he hates beatboxing. So we're already off to an explicitly good start. I don't know where the word explicitly came from in that one. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is introduce my two lovely co-hosts because I am doing that now. So, please say hello, Frederick.
This is going well.
Yes. Hello. Just never say because anything. Oh, hello, Frederick. And hello, Dr. Gareth Millwood.
You're right.
Yeah. So does anyone have anything they want to bring to this with my awkward introduction before we introduce our guest? Frederick, do you want to defend your hatred of beatboxing?
I just want to ask, can I leave now?
And Dr. Gareth Millwood, we're so very happy that you have survived the terrorist attack, which was a real and genuine terrorist attack, and also managed to find a place to piss during it. So,
yeah, it all went well.
Yes, it all went splendidly.
Well, nobody died.
There's that. So we're quite comfortable making somewhat of jokes about it. Somewhat of jokes, okay, because no one was in fact hurt or died. So. It would have been different if someone had tripped and skinned their knee. We would be very solemn about the whole affair right now, but no one did.
The skinning of one knee is a tragedy. The skinning of a million is just a statistic.
Very good.
But I'm a quit stall, and I think you should introduce our guest.
Yes, that is the friendly prodding of a man who knows his shit. Yes, what we are in fact here to do today is to offer a post-mortem of what has quickly become one of our favorite games of all time, and it was released very recently, and it is made by a man whose last name I have to pronounce correctly because he scolded me for not doing so back when we had him on Open Crowdsource. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jacob Janerka.
Oh, thank you very much. You nailed it. I'm very proud of you. You've taken a long time to get there, and we're finally there, and I'll take this as my leave, and thank you for having me on the show.
Don't worry.
You can find all of the links that we have mentioned today on backseatdesigners.com.
Pleplease donate to the Patreon.
You can pay full price for my game until the sale.
No more for today.
Yes, and
Will your game ever be in a bundle, Jacob?
Oh, I'll do that when I need money for my crack addiction. But for now, I'm pretty enough that I can, for a couple more months, I can fuel my addiction.
I appreciate the honesty.
No, it's okay.
Do you actually
honest with my fans?
Do you actually sprinkle crack on your cereal, like instead of sugar, or? did you give that up halfway through development?
I don't even have the serial, man. It's just goes straight into it, man.
Just piles of crack everywhere. You like wake up next to a. Incidentally, we should probably mention the game that we're talking about for people who don't know, and it is of course Paradigm. The what's it called? The surreal comedy adventures of a man and his tumor on the quest to become the best electronic musician of post-atomic Soviet horror. Or is it set in Poland? I'm not really sure. There's both Soviet and Polish or Russian and Polish in the game.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like it's a generic Eastern European town, so I can't get in trouble.
So we're doing a post-mortem because, frankly, the game has been out for, I don't know, a couple of weeks now? 3 weeks?
2.5 now. I think it was 3 weeks on Wednesday.
2.5, 3 weeks. Okay, so it is already firmly dead and buried and forgotten by everyone, so we can safely do a post-mortem.
It's gone from people's minds forever.
Yes.
Well, we remember it because, of course, this is a very, very ethical episode because we've been associated with the game for quite a while, having tested it, and we are, in fact, in the credits. So,
Some Gamergate shit right here.
Yeah, true. I mean, don't come and say you can't join the show if you blow one of us.
I think it was the other way around, really.
Oh.
It's like
it could have been both ways. It could have been like a 69 or something.
Yeah.
Two at the nips, one at the dick.
The sky's the limit.
So yes, it is true. We have been throwing bits of advice, unsolicited mostly, at Jacob during development.
I can't appreciate you guys enough. A lot of the fixes came from you guys. The early on important fixes.
Do something useful. That doesn't sound right.
Nah, it sounds.
I think we should call it quits right now. I don't like the development this is taking.
Us being useful. Now, but we somehow managed to worm our way into into your periphery vision very early on, Jacob. And I'm slightly struggling to remember how it all happened. I think I somehow, broke down your defenses and then invited the BSD gents to participate in it. How did that happen, actually?
I think the first time you messaged me is because you reviewed the demo on your Tumblr like ages ago, I think. Like a very flattering thing, and you sent me a lot of flattering emails, I remember at the time, which was very nice of you. I think it was like the first letters. Week when it was very intricate erotic love letters.
Well, I was.
No, yeah, and then I think I asked you if you wanted to come on board for like playtesting, like later on, like a year and a half later or something. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it rolled.
And that is how we rolled it. Yes. Now, seriously, when I played the demo, and this is true for a lot of people because the demo went up around the time you did your Kickstarter, so a lot of people played the demo, and the demo was just so amazing to me. I can't tell the last time that I laughed out loud at a game. That must probably have been when I played Space Quest 4 for the first time when I was 16 or something, and then to play Paradigm and actually laughing out loud, not just chuckle, haha, that was funny, but like seriously laughing out loud.
It was hilarious. I mean, that early part of the game still stands as one of my favorite parts of the game, just because I played through it back then as well, and it was hilarious, and still is.
Thank you. It did scare the shit out of me because like I thought everyone was gonna play the rest of the game. Like, what the fuck? This is nothing like this. The demo. This game is like not funny at all. But luckily, people still continued to find it funny after 4 hours.
Well, virtually every kind of screen you go into introduces some new batshit crazy character. So even
or mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. So after you've got over John 3000 and the Space Cadet, you then move on to the Cone and various others, and it's just it definitely hangs together.
You left out Doug the beatboxing eggplant.
We're trying to save you from any beatboxing because.
Yeah. Oh, incidentally, there's gonna be spoilers in this episode, people.
Oh, yes. I mean, it is a post-mortem. How do you actually go about doing post-mortems? We sort of take you through the development of the game and how much of much you wanted to kill yourself during the making of it, and how elated and free you feel now that you're just doing tech support for the entire world single-handedly.
Don't even mention this. Yeah, I mean, normally the thing is that you run out of publicity, so you have to write a post-mortem to put on Gama Sutra to get a few extra sales. Basically, that's what a post-mortem's for.
This probably won't get you extra sales. Just FYI.
I was going to say, what do you reckon has driven you more sales, having this interview right now or PewDiePie?
I don't know, man. That's a tough one to call. I think I'll have to lie through my teeth and say both at the same time.
Well, I mean, at least we're not.
Libel alert. Libel alert. Libel alert. Libel alert. Libel alert.
So anyway,
that's getting fucking hell, Fred. Jesus, there's no one that's going to make the final cut.
So, Jacob, what was the impetus for doing this project? Because it really is fucking surreal. So how did you come up with this idea in the first place?
Oh, the origin story.
The origins. It was basically like anything that I was like, what? If you play for the game, you can kind of tell like what I was watching or playing at the time. Like all the references are just pretty much like what I was like playing or listening to it like at that exact moment. Like the first rooms was like all like HAL 9000. It was from like Space Odyssey and stuff. But the idea started from like a uni project make a book of anything I wanted. And of course, like really stereotypical story. I saw Indie Game the movie and was like, I can do this, like every other game dev. And then I made like I watched Janerka at the time, and I really liked that about like designer babies and stuff.
Yeah, that's an awesome film.
Yeah, I really like it. It's like it's a really good film, but I feel like I'm biased because I just like everything, all the themes in it a lot. But I don't know. But
Ethan Hawke is so dreamy.
He is, man. Just watching that Midnight in Paris. No, before Midnight series, the Midnight series.
It's actually interesting. You can also see what kind of music you were listening to during the development, because Paradigm wants to be an electronic musician, and then at some point, I think around the time you started designing Boosting Thugs, your music taste must have changed to metal or something, because more and more metal references started popping out in the game.
Oh yeah, I mean, metal has been like a thing that I've listened to like for the longest out of all the genres, I guess. But I also really liked hip hop, and I think I started getting into electronic when I was like 18, like way more. And like originally the soundtrack was just going to be like just like real synthwave, like vaporwave kind of stuff. I mean, it is kind of now, but it was like more driving. Like I would watch like Drive and be like, this is what it's going to be like, Kavinsky and stuff. But then Jonas was like, that's too cool for your game. You have to scale it back and do something, you know. Like the first thing that Jonas gave me, like I hated it. Like he gave me the first sketch, and it was just like really goofy, kind of like cartoony kind of sound. And I was like, no, it has to be like serious. So we ended up with like the 70s kind of feel to it.
Yeah, it does have that kind of cassette tape vaporwave is what it's called. Like this electronic style of music that just sounds like it's being played through a very, very old cassette tape.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Tangerine Dream and stuff was like probably the main inspiration at the beginning, and some like random obscure 70s shit that I found on YouTube.
And of course, since you said Tangerine Dream, I just came.
And now we're going to bring up beatbox.
You kind of went
so
with
you're going to have a hate come. Sorry.
But you kind of went with the Blazing Saddles approach of just do it completely and utterly straight, and in some ways making it funnier by doing it really well with the music.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a really good soundtrack.
The contrast is like way funnier in my opinion. Like if it was like all goofy, I think it would get. I mean, that's like one of the biggest criticisms I get. They're like, "Oh, there's too many jokes in the game; it gets tiring." And I'm like, I can kind of see it, but I think it's also like objective. But there are probably a little bit too many jokes sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's weird that they would go, there are too many jokes. Well, it is a comedy game, so the contrast between comedy and seriousness is sort of lost on these people, I gather.
Well, one thing I do remember that I think I brought it up when we tested it. It was that there seemed to be an awful lot of fourth wall breaking jokes in it.
Oh yeah,
And
I totally cut that down after that.
At that point, we had just done an episode with I think we did that was before we had guests on, so we did an episode by ourselves about breaking the fourth wall, but Francisco Gonzalez specifically had a lot of input in regards to breaking the fourth wall, and he basically just went, don't.
Yeah, he just submitted a voicemail that said, "Don't fucking do it," and that was his contribution. But we just hung onto that like parasites, going, "Teach us more, master."
Yeah, he criticized that as well when he play tested it. You can see like at the beginning of the game there's like way more fourth wall, but then like at the end of the game there's like that DLC thing, and I was like, oh, should I keep this in? But I felt it was like funny enough that I should do, because I just wanted that 10,000 button clicking thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is that the 10,000 button click?
Yeah,
and people have actually done that.
Heaps of people.
I got through about 100 clicks, and I was just like, okay, my finger hurts, my wrist hurts. Fuck this. I'm just gonna solve the fucking puzzle.
Like a lot of people did the auto clickers and shit, but some people, like some Twitch streamers, would do it live. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh, and that's a new thing. Frederick, I think you may not have played that, because Fred sort of, I don't know what you played the early versions, but you haven't played the latest ones with the Space Station room, right?
Yeah, I played the latest ones, but I haven't played all the way through them. You know, okay. I've tried, but I've kind of been held up by other stuff. So my main, the bulk of my contributions when we were testing were in the earlier versions, like this needs fixing, this needs fixing, and usually Jacob's reply would be, this has already been fixed.
Sorry.
Oh yeah,
that's the problem with.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it's like that's sometimes I feel bad when people will test it and I've like fixed it already, like after they'll give me the feedback, and I'm like, fuck. I feel bad because you're basically shutting down people for it, and you're like, no, it was good that you pointed that out, but
at least I confirmed the existence of certain bugs.
Yes, they were true. No, I didn't mean to hold a gun to Fred's head or anything. It was just that
at this point.
At this point, it's going to come later. It was just that the early builds that we played, there were certain jokes, and there were even certain locations that weren't added to the game until later in development. So places like the space station with the translator.
That made no sense.
Well, it made sense after you explained it. I think you put some lines in the game now that actually makes sense while you're playing it. One
thing I noted is how great your... I primarily heard your voice acting, I think, and I understand you've gotten some other actors in at later stages. But your voice acting was through the roof, man. And, if I got a bit bored with the later parts of the game when I tested it, it was because most of those lacked voices. So it was like lots of stuff would fall flat simply because I was missing the Eastern European voices.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I mean, so much of the jokes were written with like voice acting involved. Like a lot of those jokes don't make any sense without the actual intonations and stuff that require the joke to be funny.
Oh, let's go back to the origin story again with how did P-diddy-digm, the character, evolve with the Eastern Europe. I seem to remember reading somewhere that the voice for P-diddy-digm is one that you'd just been walking around doing for comedy at parties and barbecues and shit.
Yeah, I'd always use it to like to make my friends laugh and stuff, especially when I'll pretend to be my dad or something like that to kind of tell crazy stories and stuff. But it became, one of the reasons I chose it, because like one, I could do that voice like well enough, people found it funny. Two, I couldn't afford a voice actor, so I was like, what can I do as a voice so I can voice the whole game without paying like thousands of dollars. And that's just kind of pretty much how it came to be.
Yeah, you voice the protagonist, and you voice Doug, and you voice a lot of characters in the game actually. Which other characters am I forgetting?
Yeah, so P-diddy-digm, Doug, John 3000, the Cone, Man in the Wall. Spoiler.
Well, we're past the spoiler warning. It's okay.
Yeah. Go buy the game if you haven't, and stop listening to this.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. Like sometimes I can't even remember. Like because there's like little random lines throughout the place. Like I do the voice on like the records in the game, like the Sean Central scene. Like that's me singing. And,
Oh yes.
And like I don't know if you played the latest version, but like on the elevator when you like turn on the maintenance mode, and it's like doo 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 doo. That's just me like sitting in my room.
Did you
telling people to go on my SoundCloud?
Did you voice like the little noise that happens whenever you click anything? The kind of the kind of noise. Or is that...
yeah. Like all the like tumors and stuff like.
Yeah, the sound effect of the paradigm getting sucked into the other world.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's like I have this like highly talented sound designer, and then there's just like random mouth noise like things.
I mean, it sounds to me like when you wanted to do this game, what you wanted to do was not necessarily to have the story be the main part of it, but it seems like you really wanted to milk your talent for everything you've got, you know, visually and sonically.
Yeah, I just, you know, mouth sounds have been a dream for me, so I wanted to implement that into the game.
I mean, we've all done it. I mean, I spent a major part of my childhood making mouth sounds. But seriously, I was just thinking.
Jesus.
What's that even mean?
I don't know.
From the diaphragm, my friend. Shit, I lost it. Someone else pick up the thread.
All right, I think we're halfway through the origin story. So what came first, the character or the plot of the genetically engineering and duper genetics and all of that?
I think the plot of like the genetic engineering came first, and then I like actually I don't know. Like one of the biggest inspirations of the game originally came from the cone. Like the cone was just like a random idea that I drew like in like 2009, and like when I went to Melbourne to this like concert art thing, like I was trying to make like fantasy cards and shit. Like I was just trying to be this like serious illustrator, and like every time I showed my portfolio, they'd be like, check out that cone guy, and I'm like, no, look at my angry barbarian and wizard, they're way cooler.
No, we dig the cone.
He's very funny.
Yeah, he was gonna be the main character at one point, like. Yeah, like I mean, it was going to be a 2D side scroller, so it was going to be an adventure game. But he eventually, obviously, worked himself back into the main game.
So I get that there's been a couple of permutations of the story. When did you get far enough into it to start, making a Kickstarter? And what was the process up until that point? What were you like batting around? You said side scroller, and then other stuff.
Yeah, like I think I did the side scroller, and then. Pretty much I was like hating uni, so I was like trying to turn every assignment into like something that could benefit my career. So I was like, trying to, I had one assignment which I had to use visual conventions, like puns, like visual puns and shit to make stuff. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make a video game character with this. Like Paradigm is like literally was a part of it as an assignment to use visual conventions like hyperbole and stuff. So I was like, his tumors are hyperbole. Like it was just the stupidest thing. Sorry.
Were they talking to him at the time?
His original drawing had a face on them. Like really early on, it had a face on it, and like the idea that he would talk to them. But I mean, that ended up coming back like a year and a half into the process.
Ah, yes. What the automatic hint line?
And then Mad Max Fury Road went on and did it anyway with one character has a couple of tumors named Larry and Barry, which is kind of interesting given that you had the same idea, only perhaps a bit more surreal.
Yeah, it totally spun me out. Like it's one of my favorite movies probably. Like,
I agree.
And when I was in the cinema and I saw that, I'm like, what the fuck? It's my idea.
and then Immortan Joe looks down at the people and goes, "You will have fat ass species," and you're just going, what?
That would be the most surreal thing in the world if that happened. I wish it kind of happened because the director is Australian, so could have just leaked somewhere.
And he's
my friends become addicted to fat-ass species, or they will control your life.
So
It's
once
like
you've
they
gotten
have
a restraining
stuff as
order,
their, like,
sorry, what was that?
oh, they have space dust as like their drug in the world, and like just everything is copied.
Okay, so once you got a restraining order for the from the director of Fury Road, the development of the different characters in the story, and we're set that it's going to be an adventure game, and then you do the Kickstarter, and single guy having to manage a Kickstarter for about a month, and
Would not recommend.
keeping regular hours and eating and all of that, and actually getting funded too. I mean, how did you survive that?
Yeah, I mean, it was super bizarre. Like my friend, like I had the concept, but I never took it seriously because I didn't think I'd have the money to do it. And my friend pushed me to do one because she said she would help me. And she did end up helping me a little bit with like proofreading because I'm notoriously bad at grammar. And as you saw when you guys played the early versions,
I'm still sorry for giving you a raw deal about that because, as far as I can tell, you had all that stuff weeded out. But I was looking at some of this and going, holy shit, this is going to take ages to proofread. I mean, there was nothing that was like meaning disturbing or anything like that. But
there's so much dialogue.
Took like
in it.
2-3 weeks.
A lot of the humour is based on the language that you use. Are you planning on translating it? Because that's going to be a fucking nightmare.
No, probably not. I mean, it could do, but like I need money to do it. People offer money and time. Like people will be like, "Oh, I'll do it." Like I keep getting emails. Like people always ask you for translations. They're like, "Oh, I'll do it for free," and like it'll be like broken English, and you're like, "Sorry, you can't. If you can't send me an email like proper, you can't translate it." But it's like a huge job for me because there's so much like images which are text, so I have to like replace like images. And that takes so long. It's not like a spreadsheet of one thing. But yeah, to continue answering your actual question, it was a lot of hard work. Like, I would only recommend it if you are like if you can work like full time for a month straight, basically.
I was kind of, I was something that impressed me was because this is probably my first controlled experience with game testing apart from what I've worked on myself, right? And I was really surprised at how dynamic this whole thing still was, how much evolution there was going on, because you sent one build and asked us to test that, and suddenly you would have added another room and some jokes would be completely changed around, and I just thought, this guy never sleeps, does he? And this game is kind of always on the move, so to speak. I mean, that was fascinating to me, and I wonder if that's common or if it's more pronounced in this case.
I think it's super common, like any art form. Like iteration is like the biggest thing. Like you never nail it the first time. Like it takes just heaps of iteration and just like stumbling on things by accident. But Paradigm, it was like too late in the process I did that kind of stuff. Like I should have done a lot of those feedback. Like if I could do things again, I would get feedback like straight away and do testing like in the first couple months and stuff, because I took so much time like redoing things and adding things because it just wasn't up to scratch basically.
How much of the story and the puzzles and such were in place by the time you were done with the Kickstarter? How much of the game was sort of set in stone? I mean, I saw your wall with the, the huge A3 bits of paper sellotaped to your wall and shit. How much of that was in place?
The core of it was like pretty much there. Like I had spoiler, the defeating Olaf with the tree, and like most of the puzzles were like kind of written, like the real base of them. But like I remember thinking that I had it all written, and then I went back to do Act 2, and I was like, none of this fucking makes sense. I had to like, a lot of the puzzles were like made harder and like more intricate. Like originally there was like the solutions were just like really easy. It was just so much iteration of that. But yeah, it was pretty. I think the biggest chunk of it was like writing all the interactions later on in the game. Yeah. Like Act 2 is like way bigger than Act 1, so there was like so much, that's like an extra probably like 4,000 lines or something in Act 2 or more.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and it all takes place in a single location, kind of like the Duper Genetics headquarters. With but there are so many more locations than there is at the start of the game. But actually, now that I think about it, it does. It seems like Paradigm is actually two games kind of stitched together. Once you get to the Act 2 break, then you're transported to a completely different setting. Same, main character and everything. But it's basically like two games stitched together. Was that planned that way, or? What?
I mean, it wasn't planned for two games separately. It's just like the original story that I had was like this crazy, huge, crazy. Like originally, Paradigm was supposed to get taken away to like a mutant camp or something like that with like other mutants.
Ouch! Ooh.
That's dark.
Yeah, that is dark.
And yeah, you had to like escape that part, and then you'd go into like Duper Genetics. But yeah, like that was one of the biggest problems. I don't know if you guys remember when we were playtesting it. Like I felt the game was like too small. Like you'd go from one place, Act 1, Act 2, and like people would feel bored being in the same area all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why I added like the space station, so you could get a nice little breather from Duper Genetics and stuff.
No, I remember you asking us about that. Yeah.
I remember everything, and I even remember, jumping ahead to again, spoiler, the ending, where he's, Paradigm was walking around the forests of Krush, and it was all placeholder art, and at the end of it, it's not a bus stop; it's this picnic table in the sheep clearing, and I was like, when I played the latest beta, I was like, "Where's the fucking picnic table? I missed the picnic table." See, that's the problem with testers. The testers always go, I like the first one better.
Well, some of the placeholders were funny. Yeah, absolutely. I remember the rebellion leader. I can't remember what her name is, but she was looking a bit rough around the edges, if I remember correctly, and wider shots early on.
Rough around the edges. I mean, she was a sketch, so she was
exactly.
Literally rough around the edges.
I mean, some like the real the changes. I mean, there were some voice lines that you re-recorded, probably with higher fidelity or something. And,
I re-recorded the whole thing.
Yeah, and I just remember from hearing from being so used to playing the early builds with the other inflections that you used, and it took some getting used to, some like weirdly getting used to the new readings, because you just remember the old ones being so funny.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty painful, like redoing all those lines, because like you said, you have those like lines ingrained into your head. So when you redo them, you need to make sure it's like as funny as well. And like I listened back to those lines, and it's just like it's so bad. Like I hate it so much. Like they're really badly acted. I mean, from my perspective, and just really forced. And I was like, oh.
One of the things that kind of came out of that process, though, was that you, when you were sort of updating on your YouTube and your Twitter as well, you were always very keen to make sure that you were going to release the game once it was polished enough and sort of not perfect, because it will never be perfect, but you seem to put a lot of effort into making sure that all of the really obvious sort of seams would be gone by the time it was released. Did that process take longer than you expected it to?
Oh yeah, I mean, the game was supposed to be out in a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in 2015. That didn't work out.
Seems a bit for one guy to do all the art, most of the voice acting, all the programming, and basically everything apart from music, and to have it out in a year. Yeah, I can see where that timetable would fall apart. Yeah.
I'll remind you that he's currently doing this show. It is past midnight, his place, just past midnight, so don't feed any gremlins there. But he's sitting up there talking to us. I think his motivation is pretty clear. He probably never sleeps, actually.
I just found out I have another podcast in the morning at like 8 a.m.
Oh, God.
And
we're sorry. We're sorry for keeping...
No. It was my fault. So boring. Lots of prolonged screaming.
But how do you feel about the the labels that the game has acquired, surreal or comedy or all of these. Which labels would you put on it? Is it a comedy first game, or is it because the story is actually really engrossing as well? Yet most people would just look at it and go, "Oh, it's a comedy game," but there's actually some subtext in there that we've talked about privately that I want to air out. Leading off from this question. So, what kind of labels are you comfortable putting on Paradigm the game?
Pretty much anyway. Like, everyone's going to experience it in a different way. Like, I only get
interactive erotic novella.
You have some people who are just like, this game is so drugged out, man. It's so fucking weird, man. I feel like I'm on drugs. Like,
that's Mel Gibson again.
Like, I'm fine with that, because that's just like some way some people interpret it. Like, it is weird. So I'm not, when people like say that I'm on drugs making it, like, there was no drugs taken, like, to think of these ideas. Like, if that ever happens, like, I'm not in the mood to write or draw. That's like,
yeah, I can imagine. It's actually harder to create on drugs than people would expect. I mean, I'm a drummer, and just smoking a bong will just make you incapable of playing drums.
Yeah, and I think our early episodes where we drink a lot kind of speak for themselves.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's Noel Gallagher in Oasis said that he one of the things he loved most about the Beatles was that they could play while high. He said even after 2 beers, he can't even play the guitar. So
I would argue we can't play the guitar without drinking beers either, but that's just me not being a fan.
Now that dude can play.
A lot of people aren't a fan of Noel Gallagher.
Well, he's had some cuntish behavioral problems. Mm-hmm. Back on track. The thing that I kind of wanted to bring out was because with all the label of this being a comedy and surreal game, and you have all these bits that fly at you like force a smile or the boosting thugs mini game, and the you can romance a toaster and all this stuff. Like, so it's a weird game, yes. But there's actually a really good plot underneath, and something that I gathered during our testing phase was really very, very personal to you, because you're an art student, and the game makes so much fun of art students, pretentious cunts, art students. So,
I mean, that was more like just venting like experiences from like meeting these kind of people. Like, I never had like a bitterness to the art world. Like, I just think it's funny making fun of them because they take themselves so seriously. Like, it's just like the perfect example of like people who need to be made fun of. Like, as soon as you start taking yourself seriously, you need to be taken down like a peg.
Yeah,
it was more like.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You continue.
No, I was just going to say the one room that really solidifies all of this is the basement of Duper Genetics, where all these discarded, the art students, and they have wine and niblets and radioactive water, and one of them is dressed as an apple, the other one's banging his head against the wall, and it's all performance art. And I love that so much, because it's not just having fun at art students' expense. It's coming from a person who actually comes from that world, and you've probably had more of your fair share of wine and niblets at art galleries, I imagine.
It's insane, man. Like, that joke is made so many times. Like, I've heard that joke of people going, "Oh, the wine and niblets are the only reason people come." And I just heard that joke so many times. I was like, I fucking hate you.
Well, I think what also makes those kind of performance art things quite good as well is that they're just left field enough that if you weren't an art student, you probably wouldn't have come up with them. But also at the same time, they're not actually that good. It's that weird hinterland between good and bad that somehow makes it worse.
Yeah. I think it's also one of those things like survivorship bias. Like, most of the time when I see performance art, it's because it's really weird. Like, I'm sure there's some like, really riveting, like, beautiful performance art, but there's so much of it which is just like weird sexual stuff.
Yeah, it's always like someone is on stage naked, giving birth to something. It's always like, smearing themselves with jam and beans and like hot
feces.
Yeah, I mean the joke is, I think there's actually a Seinfeld episode where I was at this performance art and she was miming that she was cooking for God or something. It's always one of those. Okay, so what are you doing with this? Where's this going?
Yeah, I mean, the nature of it, it has to have some shock value to like get people's attention.
So dressing up as an apple would be
Exactly. I mean, that's the joke in like, I don't know if you managed to trigger it, but if you look at the glowing corridor, there's like a guy like flipping a dimmer switch, and like Paradigm, he starts like telling him his the meaning behind it, and then Paradigm just walks away, and then he's like, "Hey, wait! Damn it! I knew I should have worn that stupid head thing."
Yeah, but there's a lot of those jokes, and the overarching joke of the whole thing is that Paradigm and all the other genetically engineered children were supposed to be these perfect children for these snobby parents who can you go off and be, what was it, wizard or a scientist or a cat or whatever, and they all turn out to want to be art students instead. It's like a defect in them. So the parents all get snotty and pissy that their perfect children want to be art students.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
kind of like
interesting.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jake.
No, you can continue.
No. I just wanted to say it's kind of a joke, both at the expense of the artists, but certainly also at the expense of people who look down on artists. Because
exactly, the parents are the ones actually the butt of the joke. It's not the art student children in the end.
I'm a bit curious. I mean, you can continue, obviously, Jacob, but I would like to hear you get into when you saw that problem, because we were talking about art exhibitions and wine and niblets, right? But you must have experienced this problem to a degree where it pissed you off and you wanted to kind of screwily comment on it.
It's just like being it's like a natural thing. When I went to uni, there would always be this like rivalry between like the art students and the design students.
Right.
It wasn't as direct as like that sounds like. We have like Anchorman street fights like in the middle of the university.
I mean, it sounds to me like Clint Eastwood walks up between you two guys and then he plays the art students and the design students off at one another and runs away with all the cash in the end.
And then David Bowie shows up to referee.
But yeah, it was just like occasionally you'd get like an art student or meet someone in like life drawing classes and stuff, and they'll just like talk about like how they're doing this like really inspirational thing or how meaningful it is. I'm like, art is not meaningful. I mean, it is meaningful, but it's like they just take themselves so seriously, and it just made me like just laugh, basically.
That is what makes me laugh about this game. It's not just the surreal bits, of which there are many, and they're all fun. I think so, at least. I mean, the high five in the elevator, the free high five. It's just so left field. It's just like, what? Why? Well, but it makes sense, I guess. But underneath it all is actually a message of don't take yourself so seriously, and don't be pretentious. And I really quite like that. Just be yourself.
Do you have any direct influences, though? I mean, in terms of, we mentioned your influences for the music early on, like Drive and that whole vaporwave sound. But when I first started playing the game, I was kind of thinking there is a lot of Samuel Beckett here by way of cocaine. So do you have any direct influences that you could talk a bit about?
Samuel Beckett?
Yeah, the playwright, the guy who wrote Waiting for Godot.
Did I not just say don't be pretentious?
It was worth a shot.
No, I haven't heard of him. But like, what do you mean? Like my inspirations for like using drug references and stuff?
No, I mean, if you, I meant it was kind of like reading Beckett on drugs. But I mean, I guess even if you haven't heard of him, you're bound to have experienced the repercussions of what he did, because he basically gave birth to not literally, but gave birth to this whole absurd theater genre. So surrealism in theater plays, basically. But do you have any particular artists that you looked up to when creating this? Was the original question.
Okay. I don't think I think I just like pretty much what I drew was kind of like a comment. Like I started out trying to be this like really serious illustrator, and that's why everything is like really clean and like tediously rendered and stuff.
Meticulous.
But I like meticulous. Yeah. I mean, I really liked Dali when I was younger. I guess that was a thing. But that wasn't really a super direct reference, but I just ended up really liking Adult Swim stuff. Like later on, like cartoons became like a big thing. Like when I started watching like Adventure Time and like those designs and like the writing, like I remember watching Adventure Time and the writing was just like so interesting to me because it's like so casual. Like they all talk like, you know, they have their own vernacular kind of thing and they're just like really casual, like, hey man, how you doing? Like I never saw that really in like any kind of cartoon. I was like, I want to do something like that.
Sup, Rosafinas?
Community as well.
Oh yeah. I can incidentally, don't call your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse Brosefino. The person not appreciated.
That's weird. Both Brett and I have actually done that, and it's met with these weird glances, like I'm not your bro.
Yeah, my girlfriend basically went, "Don't ever say that to me again."
It's really interesting that you're mentioning
Community in Adventure Time, though, Jacob, because the feel that I got from it was that it was very British Commonwealth. It had that kind of Australian, Canadian, British kind of weirdness that the Americans usually latch onto. That kind of
like
weird sort of sideways
stuff
thing
as well.
Yeah,
for sure. Like I think when I started getting older, like 19, 20s, like I started watching heaps of like British comedy shows and stuff like that, and getting into like really into like dry humor and stuff. And like, I mean, what I really liked about Community specifically, that Dan Harmon did whatever he wanted. Like I remember watching the episode when they just did a whole episode in an RPG, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how can you do this? Like, this is like a high budget show, and you're making an art in an RPG. Like, this is the coolest thing. Like, you have this power to be able to make a show doing that. Like, that's what I wanted to do with Paradigm.
Is it hard to, in an adventure game form, to do these kind of sort of, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, because you don't just have to draw it or, you know, voice it, but actually have to code it in. And I'm thinking like bits where, for instance, when you boost the water robot at the, you know, he blocks his path, and you have this little force a smile mini game, which, you know, on paper sounds like a brilliant idea. Yeah, we'll just put this in. But then you go, all right, well, it's actually, I have to code the whole thing up, and it's never used again in the entire game and such. So how hard is it to be spontaneous in a game like this?
It's not too bad. Like, you notice like in all those like spoofs of all the different genres, like they're really simple. Like there's nothing to them really. Like, you know, like Force a Smile is like really simple to make. Boosting Starlings is just choosing dialogue options. Like there's no puzzle, but it still took like weeks to make that custom system for it. And like the JRPG thing, like it's, you know, this is not complicated at all. Like I had so many ideas what to do, but you just can't implement them into that engine. So I kept it simple.
But I love it when somebody puts that amount of attention to detail and to effort into a joke that takes about 2 seconds to tell and then never referenced again. There's something beautiful about putting all of that kind of time and resources into it.
Like the whole joke with the anime sequence, like that wasn't going to be there, and I was like, this needs to be more epic because you just finished this puzzle that took you a while, and like you need a payoff. And I was like, what can I do? And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if it came together like Voltron? And I spent like 2 weeks animating that. It's just like it's for such a small gag, and I was like, I need to do this.
I mean, of course, in the early version that I played, you had the actual sequence from the anime playing, along with a caption going, "This is going to be replaced. Don't worry about the copyright infringement."
Yeah.
Well then that's a good place for me to jump in, because one thing that I noticed during the testing phase, and we got in pretty early, so I think I can speak for most of the process here, was how seriously you actually took this game. I mean, on the surface, it almost has a kind of Invader Zim-ish quality to it, where, you know, the dialogue is just, you know, the first thing that popped into your head, and they have this very casual way of speaking and all that, and it seems like a very free-flowing sort of creative exercise. But the more that we, started giving you feedback on it, I mean, you took it really, really seriously, and it was like, okay, yeah, you're right, I got to fix this and stuff. It wasn't a sort of free flowing experience at all. You really went in there. So I just think I want to say kudos on that, really.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you can never be precious with whatever you make, because especially, I mean, you're biased to yourself. Like you can create the base for it, but sometimes you need other people to tell you what's there, and you can make an informed decision what advice that you take to credit your own, because not all the advice you get is going to be good, because if you took everyone's advice, it's just going to be a mess. So you have to pick and choose.
Yeah. But I think the thing is that you actually do have a very strong vision, and there is a subtext to the game that's very serious and very personal to you. And I think I just want to get that out there, if people are actually still listening to this, that it may seem sort of nonsensical and surreal and all for a laugh on the surface of it, but it has more layers to it. I think that's actually why I like it a lot. Like with Futurama and stuff like that.
I like the reference.
It's got layers.
I like the reference to the dig the most.
Yeah, to bring me down a peg, didn't you?
That happens a lot on Twitch. There's like at the end of the game, it has a drawing of the dick, and everyone's like, "There's a drawing of a dick there." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, there is," but they never see it's holding hands with a vagina. Like they never mention that. I'm like, Has no one seen a vagina before? Is this why people are missing it?
I was actually talking about the dig as in the game with a G at the end. But I mean, kudos for having a dig in the game, man.
No worries, man. No worries.
So I guess I just wanted to get into specifics. Well, first of all, one thing that I think that was yesterday on Twitter. You tweeted something like that some of the puzzles that you had designed that you thought were too easy were maybe too hard, or I think it was one of those, you're watching Twitch streamers and you go, today I learned that puzzles that I thought were too easy were actually too hard, or something like that.
I just said Schrodinger's I don't think that's how you pronounce it. So Schrodinger, Schrodinger's puzzle design, which is basically it was just a play on the cat in a box. Like the cat is dead and alive. Puzzles are like too hard or too easy, depending. Like I'll get these reviews and people will be like, I really like the game. It really shines in the writing and art, but it was so easy. I just breezed through it, like all the puzzles without any thinking. And then there'll be some people who'll be like, oh, I couldn't do this puzzle. It's really difficult. Like people will say they struggled and stuff. So, but most of the time it's like real hardcore people who just that's all they do is play puzzle games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never really understood that though, because that's not the point of this game, surely.
Yeah. I mean, like puzzles are clearly not the strong point of the game, but it blows my mind when some people are like, this game was way too easy. I'm like, was it though?
If you want to play a puzzle game, we've got Professor Layton over in the corner. Would you like that? No, but I was just wondering, what puzzles did you... First of all, what is your puzzle design sort of process? Is it just in a sort of, okay, I've got the story, I've got the set pieces, I'm going to chuck in a puzzle here or something. Something about a dead policeman's head and a hat on it? Yeah, sure, why not? Or is it more intricate than that?
It evolved. Like personally, I think the game... you can see me like evolving as a designer as you go through. Like it gets better, like in terms of design. Mm-hmm. Like the first couple puzzles were literally the first puzzles I ever made in my life. So like I drew a lot of the art initially. So I was basically shoehorning in puzzles. Like how can I make this a puzzle? So like getting the head and stuff like that were all kind of like really shoehorned in. And that's why I think they're like the weakest puzzles in the game, because they're just like, I forced them in there. And then the second half, like I actually took the process of like designing the puzzles first before doing any art at all. So then you can design the areas with the puzzle in mind. So they're like way better, because then you can like point people in the right direction and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in contrast to like Thimbleweed Park, which was just released, which is ostensibly a puzzle before story game, and yours is more of a story or at least humor, but story and humor before puzzles game. If that's unfair, I don't know, but I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I'd put it that way rather than saying the puzzles are the weak point. I mean, the puzzles are good.
Exactly.
They're not the weak point, but they're not central to the feel of what the game is supposed to do.
That's a surf moving the story along, I guess.
Yeah,
which is my favorite kind of puzzle. I mean, you're following this journey with Paradigm. I mean, that's what the game is about, really.
Yeah,
actually, it's about ethics and games journalism.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. I think puzzle design has like a lot further to go in video games. Like, I mean, people talk about it like forever. Like, what constitutes an adventure game? Like, you know, what's the difference between a walking simulator and like a traditional kind of thing? I feel like there's some mechanic out there still that can still be like the perfect adventure game, or at least, you know, better what we have now.
Yeah.
So
like
what?
Almost like passive aggressive. Like, yeah, good one, good point, Jacob.
And the best thing is it's yourself saying it, so, you know, passive aggressive towards yourself.
Yeah, at some point we could just have the whole podcast just be Jacob and Gareth's soundboard just basically conversing with himself.
I mean, that's what the whole Paradigm is, basically. Like, I'm just talking to myself with like multiple characters. The whole game is just literally me making fun of myself. Like,
exercise multiple personality disorder.
It does, but it's charming in a way. That's what I really like about it. It's not in a sort of, you know, looking down on or anything. It's very self-deprecating, but in a charming way. I really like that.
So because it's one person in conversation with himself. I mean, obviously, you know, there's other people doing some of the voices and the music and that kind of stuff, but it kind of has a coherence, I think, because you've been able to direct directly. If that's not a phrase, but you've been able to keep direct personal control of virtually every element of it, and it holds together as a piece, if you want to think of it in that way, in a way that a lot of other games don't.
Yeah. I mean, that's a benefit of working on your own. Like, you can oversee like every single part, so it like stays consistent. Like, if you have a game like Mass Effect, you have like, you know, like 5 directors, and they're just like the shit trickles down because you know, like, not saying I haven't played it yet, but like,
Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy was very, very good up until you get to the ending where shit just falls apart. And you can tell you had all these directors who went, we're going to have so many choices and you can choose your own ending. Blah. And essentially there are like 3 different endings that you can choose. Yeah. So nothing
designed by committee, man.
Yeah, it's like a very, and I would say a very nihilistic experiment.
but Jacob,
do matters.
But Jacob, you not only were you in complete creative control of the game, you self-published the game as well. Was that like a conscious, it's mine, bitches, or was it you know, so to sort of keep your creative control off influence, or what? Why didn't you go with a publisher? Just a hypothetical question.
Well, I mean, one, I never got offered by any publishers.
Really? Even after the buzz that the demo got?
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
No one contacted me. I think because the game is like just a little bit too weird that like no one would want to publish it. Like, I guess there's Devolver and like Adult Swim, I guess, would be like a fit for Paradigm, but yeah, no one. I think those kind of publishers are looking for like more unique gameplay kind of games, I guess, like has a unique gameplay element. I don't know. That's just me like guessing, but I definitely wanted to do it myself because one, control of the game, and plus doing it myself is kind of like a self kind of goal. Like you can say that you've done everything, like a selfish kind of thing, me being stubborn. Right. And also like you hold more of the lion's share of the profits, like not looking at from a point of, monetary gain, but if you want to keep making more games, you still need money. So you have to kind of think of it a way like, I've talked to other devs and they get these shitty deals. Like, the publishers can sometimes take like over 50%. And imagine being a team of like 3 or 4 people, and then you get a publisher, and then Steam takes money. So Steam takes 30%, publisher takes 50%, and then you got to split it with 3 people.
I mean, you can live like a prince, provided you don't eat anything.
Yeah,
there's got to be coke money in there. Yeah, but sure. What was I going to say? Something about
working 26 hours a day in order to be able to do all those jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it does come with a cost. Like I had fuck all social life and.
Now I remember what I was going to ask. Yeah, because you're sort of paying the price for your creative control and in your spades of wealth because now you find yourself. Because I'm being facetious, of course.
He isn't.
Drug money. But because now you're faced with a game that's been released and you've got journalists and people like us, podcasters, hounding you. In fact, while we've been recording this, I just got a message from Francisco Gonzalez on Skype who said, "Stop stealing our guests." So apparently, Jacob, you're going on Blue Cup Tools at some point.
Yeah, we'll be, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got all this press to deal with, and you've also got to support the game, and you also got to fix bugs that people find that you didn't find in the first place, and all of this as a one-man team. So how much of your social life are you hoping to regain? Have you just like dug a social grave for yourself at this point?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of coming back. It's coming back now because since I don't have a real deadline anymore. Like before, it was like the worst part about it was people would email me every day asking when it's done. Like when it would be finished. And, you know, it gets to a point when it's like, you know, I said it was going to be done in 2015. It's like late 2016 and people will just like, that's what you've become. Like people just ask you, oh, is the game out yet? Or when's it coming out? Like that just, you know, puts a lot of pressure on you because you have to finish it. Like you can't just like quit. Otherwise it's just like wasting your life away. So, but like now, because it's out, I don't have that guilt of like going and seeing my friends anymore, like being like I should be at home finishing the game. I can be more like I should be replying to tech emails, but I can stay out for another 2 hours.
Yeah. So I guess the I don't know if we should wrap this up or if you guys have got anything.
I don't have that much more to ask. Actually, it's been very deep.
Deep.
Yeah, no, it has been. It's been great. I mean, I think one of the I think one of the things that that really kind of came out of it is that at the very least the finished product was worth it as a player. So I hope it's been worth it in terms of your mental and social health.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's what I enjoy the most. Like out of all the things that I enjoy, like making things is like the most satisfying. Like it's just something that I need to do. Like even now that I have all this spare time, I'll be like watching a TV show and I'm like, fuck, I should be making something right now. Like, you know, I mean, but that also comes with like, I've just taught my brain to be in constant, like I remember the first week people were like, how do you feel? You must feel so good for finishing the game. While I look at my inbox and there's like 20 emails like asking why it doesn't run or something. And I'm like, like, it's not what you think it is. Like people kind of assumed when I released it, I'd be like, yeah, let's go on holiday and enjoy it. It's like, nah, I have to support it.
Yeah. I mean, how was the reception of the game has been, apart from the guys who can't get it to run and all the tech support and stuff, but from you know serious people like people who write reviews on a daily basis and people who play games and leave competent Steam reviews. Note the competent underlined. It's been received really, really well. So how do you feel about you know, having now released this into the world and people are now having their own take on it? It's not just, you know, the closed circle of testers and all that. The entire world is now watching and playing this. How do you feel about its reception?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really relieving. Like, it was the same when I was like, before I did the Kickstarter, like you have no idea what the general public is going to feel like. You know, you guys liked it, other people liked it, but you don't know for sure like what the masses, I guess, will feel about it, right? So that was like definitely like a worry, I guess. Like it wasn't going to be funny, or, you know, that wasn't going to hit with like, you know, a lot more people, right?
Wasn't be cool
yeah.
to the teens.
Pardon?
Wasn't going to be perceived as cool to all the teens and the hipsters and the hip dudes.
Things
Hip
that watch
dudes.
the YouTubers. The tubers.
Yes, you can tell I'm 37.
What kind of jazz clubs have you been hanging out at?
I've
been hanging out at Thick.
I promised myself I wouldn't be one of those people, on in their ages who try to, use young lingo and such. But I'm just
lingo.
Yeah, exactly. You see, I have turned into that. I'm only 37, or going on 37, and I'm already. It sounds like, yeah, Granddad, shut the fuck up, will you please?
What is
37?
my fellow N-word?
What? No, Jesus. Sorry, how?
Yeah, I
gotta
get
cut that out.
emails. I get emails from like 15-year-olds, and they'll be like, "Hey fam, I love your game. It's really lit." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like he'll be asking for support like that. He's like, "Hey fam, your game is really lit, but for some reason like this doesn't work." And I'm like, "What do you? How do I support this?"
You just start with, "Hey, Brosofinos."
Yeah, exactly.
Brosifino.
But, it's just funny stuff. Like, Brosifino is like a real, like, it's not made up. Like, people say that here, like, as a joke.
You guys have
like,
the coolest slang. You have doof for music as well.
I think it's American. Like, I don't know where it comes from, but it's like, yeah, Brosifino is like pretty, like, Broseph, like Moseph. No, Moseph.
Joseph.
Shit like that.
Home theater system, homeboy, all those. Yeah,
exactly.
Barf
But,
me out and
like Fat
gag me with a
BT, for
spoon.
example.
Sorry. What was he saying?
What about
was
the
Brett
spoon?
saying?
I was saying barf me out and gag me with a spoon, but that's more of an 80s thing.
A serrated spoon.
There's nothing like barfing with a spoon.
Okay, at this point, I'm just rifling through references and quotes from the game that I really like. So, yes, Jacob, you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying, like, I just find it so funny, like, how much people like the word fat beatsies. Like, it's just so weird that it became a life on its own. Because it's like, I got the inspiration from Parks and Recreation when Aziz, his character, is basically like talking about how he calls things like weird things, like when he's like, "I called these shoesies." Like that's basically like where it comes from. And it just took off.
I love all the lingo and the slang. I mean, Doug and Paradigm should have their own little TV show of them just going off on adventures, because the lingo in between these. I mean, even the part where Paradigm rocks up to him and Doug has thrown himself out of the potted plant to avoid paying rent. It's just one of my favorite, because you've just come from one scene where Paradigm is coming from the space cowboy, and he's just like, "Oh fuck, you'd better not be dead," and then he rocks on back home and says, "Oh fuck, Doug, don't be dead as well." I love that.
So stupid.
I fucking love it. So, okay.
Brilliant. And then, I mean, the best thing is Paradigm getting bitchy with him. I'm not talking to him.
Yeah.
This is the last time we have a meaningful moment.
That was just like a more of a practical thing, because like I didn't want to record more lines for him. So, I was like, I can't write anymore. Like I'll just make it so he's pissed off at him.
I can understand why you'd be hostile towards Doug, because what he does is deeply unethical. Don't fake your own death to avoid paying rent, kids.
That's the main key of the whole game, was just that meaning.
That's the takeaway.
I mean, if you take anything away from the game, please remember that lesson, kids. When you move out of your parents' basement and move into a squalid little flat, please don't pretend to be dead. Life lessons with Paradigm and the Backseat Designers. Thank you.
And on that bobsled.
Yeah. I mean, one of the worst jokes in the game that I hate every time I see it is at the end of the game when he says he's a part of the gangster family instead of the... because it's like a joke on like how people were always saying like tomatoes are like actually vegetables and stuff. So the joke is like Doug thinks he's a part of the gangster family. And I hate that joke so much. And
I think I must have missed that.
every time I see streamers play it and I hear that joke and I'm like, oh no, I want to take it out. It's such a lame joke.
I think my favorite jokes in the game are they're mostly quotable. I mean, the whole game is very quotable. One joke that everyone seems to think is absolutely hilarious is activate blow mechanism with the cartridge, with the Boosting Thugs cartridge.
Yeah, I mean that's such a fucking.
It's a classic.
But it's such a fucking. What's the word for it? Like crowd pleaser joke, because it's like, I remember when I did that. Like, I think it's a funny joke, like the way it's executed, but it still makes me cringe a little bit because I'm just like, I'm just playing to people's nostalgia here.
Yeah, because my favorite jokes are of the slightly more obscure variety. Like at the very start of the game, you open your mailbox and you find another mailbox inside, and then you find another mailbox.
Games, Babushkin mailbox.
Exactly. That line makes me crack up every single time.
That's a great line.
Yeah, some people, it's funny because like some people find it really funny and some people just don't get it at all. Like I've seen people like lose their shit, and then some people just like, okay, there's another mailbox in here. Why would it be in here?
Yes, and those are the jokes I really appreciate. The ones that are so left field, like all the look messages on the wine and nibblies in the basement, and the scientist who gets recombobulated, and you ask him if he's in pain, and he says, "Oh yes, I'm in horrible pain." It's like it's just sort of this happens every day.
I mean, of course, the very idea of a sloth that vomits up candy bars is another great one. Which I mean, when I played the demo originally, I just kind of tilted my head and went, "What the fuck is happening right now?"
Sometimes I hate you, Father.
When the explanation comes because a diabetic made him into his personal candy machine, and you go, "That doesn't help." It's still no.
Yeah, that was like, I can't even remember, like, when I was brainstorming for the bad guy, I was just like, how do I make it cool? Like, the original story, when it was like a 2D side scroller, it was like two bad guys. Like, one was originally, instead of a head in a jar, it was a guy's head, and then his body was inside the jar. And it was like this like decrepit body. And
sorry, that idea makes me laugh.
And the other guy was just like a really generic, like evil scientist. I'm like, this is a shit idea. Like, how do I make this way cooler? And then I saw that GIF of the sloth that like turns around in the chair. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think I know which one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's like perfect. Like that his like whole chair thing is like based on that GIF.
And also that people keep referring to him as adorable, even though he's got the Donald Trump toupee and he's keeps vomiting candy, and people just go, "Oh, he's so adorable," and then he vomits and he goes, okay, wait, maybe not."
Yeah, I mean that's another thing, like totally unintentional, like
the toupee
Donald
thing.
Trump thing.
Yeah, it's not an actual Trump toupee.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's the greatest.
I mean, it doesn't piss
toupee,
me
though.
off, but
it's huge.
it's like, I'm like, oh, that's not what I intended. Like, people will call people are like, this game is just full of memes. I'm like, no, there's jokes about like modern culture, like internet, but it's not like got actual memes in it.
All right, so we are kind of coming up on the end times, I feel.
It's
sadly,
the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Because honestly, I could sit here and talk about my favorite jokes in Paradigm for pretty much ever, because there's so many quotable lines, and I think I gravitate towards comedy media where there's a lot of quotable lines. You got your Monty Pythons, you got your Futuramas, and you've got Paradigm. Red Dwarf, certainly, which also has a lot of really good cool set pieces and a very sort of free flowing kind of. Yeah, actually, there are a lot of similarities between Red Dwarf and Paradigm. Probably.
I've actually never watched it.
So
before.
that's. I had a feeling you were going to say that. So I was like, yeah, I can't save this, can I? No, I can't.
Oh no, I know what it is. Like I've seen it actually before, like when I was at the gym once with no sound.
That is not what
I've seen like YouTube clips and stuff. Like
it finally happened to you, trolls, because this is what happens whenever I ask someone a question. So what was your creative process like when you did this game? It wasn't really anything special.
Yeah, I mean I kind of get mad when people do that. Like,
oh yeah,
when creators say that. I'm like, it came from somewhere, man. Like, you don't just design in a vacuum.
Exactly.
I just do what the voices in my head tell me to do.
Yeah.
Okay, interview over. Okay, no, well, one last question I think is because you very graciously put the creator's commentary in the game, in the final game, and the last beta I played actually had the creator's commentary enabled with parentheses, very spooky animation of you just being generated on top of this pedestal with like the flesh and muscles and everything, and then pop up goes the head or the hair. So at the end of the game, total spoiler here. At the end of the game, the very last commentary piece you can click on is you sort of saying, well, thank you for playing Paradigm. I hope you enjoyed because it's the last game I'll ever make, or something to that effect. You're just kidding on that one, right?
Yeah, I was just joking that like the game was going to ruin my career and I'll never get to make video games again. Like, that's a joke.
Okay, thank fucking God. So
luckily that's not the case. We'll see what happens when there's a Steam sale.
Or a bundle.
We can see how much I can fondle into the next horrible thing that I make.
I mean, you don't strike me as a sequel kind of guy, so I don't expect you to announce Paradigm 2. Although I might be totally wrong. Am I? Are you a sequel kind of guy?
I don't think I'm not a huge fan of sequels, so I don't think, like, I feel like I exhausted a lot of the comedy, like, in Paradigm of what it was. Like, I would be really forcing it if I did like a sequel, like, because there's just so many jokes you can make about like mutants and self-deprecating humor that it would get really old if I had like a whole second game. But
yeah, I think the game was just about the right length to allow you to sort of explore all that stuff and sort of leave you wanting a little bit more. But yeah, I think I agree with you on that point.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think like when I'm 40 years old and need like extra money, I'll to fuel my coke addiction.
Yeah,
I will do it.
Paradigm VR will be coming out.
And PewDiePie Jr. can play the demo and get you some buzz about it.
That'll be spun out like kids of like YouTubers like take over like kind of like a royalty kind of thing. They'll like take over the channels and stuff and just inherit subscribers.
Yeah, but something tells me that the world that Paradigm inhabits and the message that you wanted to sort of get across, even the personal coming to terms with being an artist and trying not to be pretentious and all of this pretentious jazz. Now it's sort of out of your system now, I'm guessing. So if you're going to do a second game, you would look somewhere else. You strike me as a very creative kind of guy that always has something imaginative cooking. So being stuck in one world and having to, like Douglas Adams, having to keep writing about the same characters over and over again, that would be like a fate worse than death to you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think. Yeah, I think it would. If I were to do something, like, I kind of like the idea of doing something completely different. But who knows, man? Like. But more than likely, the next project will be something. It would be like a complete different setting. I don't know. Like, I still need to figure it out. Pretty much.
Would it be in the realm of computer games? Are you happy as in your role as a game designer rather than artist or graphic designer at this point?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't become a graphic designer. I mean, the only thing that would tempt me is like pitching a TV show. Would be the only thing that would take me away from video games right now. But maybe I can do both, like do like a combination thing. But I would have to completely destroy my social life if I'd like to go that route.
Yeah. Lethal one-man machine job, and you can only survive on so many hours of non-sleep.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure I was getting pretty sick, like coming up to release. Like I was like getting like headaches and stuff, and I was like, better get some sleep before I die.
Yeah,
we're grateful you did.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to go into the end spiel unless you guys have anything to add on that.
No, other than to say thank you very much for coming along, Jacob.
Yeah, it's
thank
been
you
a
for having me. It was a pleasure,
always.
like always.
And thank you for letting us test the game. Thank you for putting our ugly asses in your credit sequence, and best of luck with whatever you're doing right now, embracing the PR thing.
The waters of PR, the dangerous waters.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully you guys don't break up, so it won't be awkward when it just says like your guys' podcast just like on the thing, and then you guys will. It'll be a sad moment seeing it all the time.
Well, we might break up one day, but then, like you, we'll want to fuel the coke addictions by doing a reunion like 40 years into the future.
Yeah,
the reunion tour. It's bringing in the cash. All the money you guys are making right now.
Oh yeah, rolling in it.
Yeah, speaking of money, trolls.
Oh, yes. Well, I didn't even get to thank the dude himself because, Jacob, you know this by now, but I just want to put it out in the world for anyone who is listening to this. Paradigm is by far one of the funniest games I've ever played, and I love it to bits. So thank you so much for putting up with my ass and my two co-hosts' asses during development. Thank you for letting us test it. Lots of asses. Basically,
will make me cry.
Yes. Well, we can't have too many asses in this. I mean, Dupa Genetics, the logo is basically a giant ass.
Oh man, that's like the biggest bane of like every time there's a streamer or a YouTube video, someone will go, "Did you know that Dupa means ass in Polish?" Like every 5 seconds, and like every time there's like some Polish dude will come into the chat on Twitch like, "Did you know this?" Like, yes, everyone knows it now.
I didn't know it. Interesting. Well, I learned something today.
you should watch more Twitch streams. Yeah. So it pains me to say this, but I've got a pot of mincemeat on the stove, and it's been sitting there for 2 hours now. So maybe I should go and check on it.
Yeah, all right, sounds good, mate.
So maybe we should just say that. Well, again, thank you, Jacob, for coming on the show. And if you guys would like to check out what we otherwise do, I mean, you can subscribe and read our blog posts and our show notes and all that over on backseatdesigners.com. You can catch up with us on Twitter at BSDesigners. We have an open Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/backseatdesigners. And much like Jacob, we would like to be rolling in coke and dough and shit. So that's why we also have a Patreon account. Actually, it is, to be perfectly serious, it is a part of our funding to go to Adventure X this year, which will probably be at the late November, early December or something. They haven't announced a date. We don't know. But we really, really want to go. And if you throw money at the Patreon, it might help us get there. So please go to patreon.com/backseatdesigners and throw some money at it. We promise to keep Fred's coke-hungry hands out of it as much as we can.
Also blowjobs.
Lots of blowjobs.
And also go to, is it Steam and is GOG? Is that where we can get Paradigm, Jacob?
Yeah, you can get Steam, GOG, Humble Bundle. That's all I can remember off the top of my head.
Well, you'll find it somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's those three. You'll find it somewhere.
People in dark alleyways.
Oh, you can get it on Pirate Bay too.
What? Oh, Jesus.
Don't get it off Pirate Bay. Please buy it.
Please buy it. Support this funny man and help him eat something other than cereal. I mean, please. The dude's a fucking skeleton. No, actually, oh Jesus! I completely forgot to say the various endings at the end of Paradigm, especially the one where you're traipsing around a desert, screaming at the camera. That was not in any of the previous builds that I played, and when I saw that, I was just flat on my ass laughing, going, "Oh, this game still manages to surprise me."
Yeah, that was like a thing that, like, when you guys were playing those builds, I was like, this is like such a part of the game which I think is funny, and you guys are like missing out on it. And I was like, oh, I wish I could have this in. Like originally, I think we talked about it. There's going to be like a dancing one. There was going to be like a Godzilla one, but it's like it just ran out of time.
So of course, if you haven't bought, but we did warn you about spoilers, so you probably already know this. This ending spiel has gone on and long enough, so I'm just going to say thank you for listening. Say goodbye, Fred.
Goodbye, Brosefinos.
And Dr. Millward, did you consider the blowjobs?
Cheers, mate.
So that's thank you from us, and we'll see you back next week for more hijinks and hilarity. Thank you.
Laters.
No more for today.